Hey everyone, and welcome to Side Quest, the every other week Authors and Dragons game that usually isn't a game because we talk about things that don't have to do with our characters turning into animals and fucking off, and that's pretty much the adventure so far. If you're just joining us, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and I'm here today with Drew Hayes and Robert Bevan. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And we have a special treat tonight. We talked to Kirby Hayborn not too long ago. Now we get to talk to the other half of Shingles, the other voice that makes us sound so much better than we really should sound. Please welcome Cassandra Myles.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Good to be here with you weird folks. I've been actually really looking forward to talking to you guys.
Oh my God, we give you this nice introduction. You immediately call us weirdos.
Well, I figured you guys, that was exactly how we're supposed to do it. You guys are so off the chain. It's on purpose. It's beautiful.
But we have...
So I say it with the biggest compliment possible.
You know, we have feelings too, you know?
Yeah, she's had to read every Shingles story, so, there's no way she doesn't think we're weirdos.
Yeah,
Well, not everyone.
She hasn't
Have
had
you
to
read
do them
everyone?
all. I'm pretty sure she has had to read them all at some point.
Yeah,
or another.
Really?
there's a hole in her soul that will never be filled now.
Hey, I'm happy to be the leader of the weirdos. I think if we're not a little bit weird and off, then how can we entertain properly?
Indeed.
Did
I
that
didn't
work?
vote for you.
Here. I was trying to clang my old-timey drink mug that I'm definitely using for effect.
Sorry, I didn't mean to insult you or whatever. I can do it over. I was just trying to be funny.
No. That's part of the fuckery there.
Oh, good. Well, I figured you're like, be prepared. I'm like, all right, I'll bring this snark. I'm not afraid. I'm going to jump right in.
You'll know when you cross the line when Drew says, "Steve, delete what Bevan just said."
Yeah, I think we still have a whole section that's bleeped out of one episode. Because us reacting to it was good enough to keep, but we could not keep it.
Gotcha. I was just going to ask, did you leave it or cut it? But
We bleeped it. They just heard the bleep, and then all of us reacting to it.
that's kind of fun. The outtakes.
I stand by it.
Good for you. What's going on, guys?
Then there's our old standby pretty much. Like, how many times can we get Joe to say "God damn it," in an episode?
Yeah. So, Cassandra, you're a narrator.
I am. Have you guys made a drinking game with your listeners? Like every time someone says something, then they have to drink? Because you could totally do that, I guess.
Well, no, because we like that. We like them living.
Let them make that game, because we don't have enough subscribers as it is.
Understood. Hey, so I narrate and talk stuff about books and whatnot. What do you guys do?
We write some of those books, including the Shingles story. So for anybody who's listening to this and does not keep track with the Shingles audiobooks, for one, shame upon you.
Right.
For two, they are narrated by Cal Wemberly, a.k.a. Kirby Hayborn, and Cassandra Myles, who is an excellent and amazing talent who has done a lot of other stuff, such as House of Guardians, Bound by Affliction, Queen Takes Night. So, kind of starting off with the basics, what got you into voice acting, narration stuff?
Great question. Well, I've been a bibliophile my whole life, so I really, really enjoyed books. I actually wish I had found out about narration for audiobooks a lot sooner in my career, but I don't know, I guess being only child, I always enjoyed being the center of attention, I guess. I come from a musical family and always kind of did shows and little dance performances and for our family when I was a little kid, and so I just kind of got the bug, got into theater as a kid, and then did everything I could to try to keep doing it professionally. And I love it. I love it.
I gotta tell you, I appreciate the work you do. I gained a new appreciation for it last night. I tried to record something on my own last night, and wow, I am not a voice actor.
Yeah, I've been doing chapter, just recording chapter readings of my books since quarantine began, and I usually start each one with okay, what you're about to hear sucks. Go buy the audiobook so you can hear a professional.
I do a monthly audio blog chosen by my Patreons, and it has been an excellent education in the amount of work it takes to create shitty audio. I mean, full on, just not very good, but like passable, barely passable. And then to listen to the quality that folks like you put out, and it's just like, yeah, I have no desire to ever try and narrate one of my own books.
Yeah, like you guys are the reason that like I'll be on K-boards or something else, and I'll see some new indie author come on and be like, I think about what do you guys think about me recording my own books? And it's just like, no,
Nope.
Well, I appreciate that. I got to tell you, there are some authors who kill it when doing their own audiobook. Like Neil Gaiman is a rock star.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be some. I mean, same way some authors can do their own covers and stuff. It's just that
it's a cross section of talents that
Yeah.
Right.
it's just that.
But you
most.
generally know if you have this training and background. Like, if you don't know the difference between acting and voice acting and all those things, you might want to let someone who does take a crack at it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I get that a lot. Like, oh my God, how cool, you do this, and how, people tell me I have a great voice. How do I get in? And which is normal, but it's so much more than just plug in a microphone and just talk. And a lot of people don't realize it, and especially, how technical it is in just working with my digital audio workspace and my booth and getting the right noise levels and all this technical stuff, besides understanding all the acting stuff and the technique that goes into different genres or just characterizations and bringing things to life. And to not make it a monotone, boring thing, or your breath control. It's so much more involved than people realize. But, it's one of those jobs where it's also a weed out job, You find people are totally interested, and once they start to see under the hood and how it works and try it, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's, I just finished an 18-hour book that kicked my ass. So if you don't have the stamina for it, you learn real quick if you have an affinity for it or not.
Drew calls that a short story.
Great. Okay, good to know. So if I ever do any of your books, Drew, give me 3 weeks to record it.
My record is a 60-hour book, 60.
Whoa.
60 and a half, actually, and I'm still a little bit bitter about that one because War and Peace is 61, so it's that fucking close.
Is it a lit RPG?
No, it's Superheroes in College. It's the 4th book in a series.
That's awesome. So I'm completely geeky everything. So I'm all into the comics and the superheroes or the gaming kind of stuff, and so I love those kind of books. Which is why I was super excited in Shingles 4, Rick, that you had the Sober Slayers. That was fun.
Oh, glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I got to do a lit RPG for once, audiobook-wise. I know a lot of my stuff is more racy or sexy or Robert Bevan, holy shit, my God, in your face.
racy, sexy. That's the ghost of Hooker Alley.
That was my introduction to you guys. And I remember, which was awesome. I love that book. But I was reading some of the reviews on Audible, and it's like, I don't remember what the one person had said, but they almost was like a prayer kind of a thing for Cassandra. Hope she made it through. It was okay and wasn't traumatized.
Well, it was funny. Like when we did that first Shingles, we heard that that you and Kirby were on board, and we were excited. We were like, holy crap, we got talent on board. And then we were waiting. We're like, okay, and now any second now they're gonna come back and be like, fuck no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a mini moment, and I was like, oh, fuck it, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. So no, it's fun. I mean, they're challenging, and they're definitely there's stories that kick you in the balls. But it's kind of fun to just kind of go there and just be raunchy. Like, I remember used to watching all those silly movies back when I was a kid that had kind of that flair and just, I don't give a shit, we're just going to throw everything on the wall and just have fun. And it's been fun. It's been a nice change, too, from all the, the sexy romance stuff that I do, which I enjoy very much. But it's a nice shift and a break on the mental palate.
Today I'm gonna read sexy romance. Tomorrow, a story about a kid who farts Jesus.
I meant to ask Kirby this when he was on, but this is an excellent opportunity. I've just always been curious. How do you divide up who takes which stories? Is that done by Tantor? Do y'all collaborate on that at all?
No. No, and actually, I rarely speak to him. We get the script from the people at Tantor are so amazing. They're such great people. So they'll send us the script and they'll split it out. It's the same exact script, but they'll have in brackets our name by which story. So that we know, okay, this one's mine, okay, that one's yours, and then when we get it, we'll read through the whole thing, go, okay, I have this many stories. Or as of lately, that was in the beginning, but now they've been like, okay, you're going to be doing yada, yada, yada stories. And so I already knew in this last, and Shingles 4, that I had 4 stories, which was exciting because like, ooh, I get to play more. So we don't get to choose. The only thing is I noticed, because like Rick and I had chatted prior, and he's like, oh, just, this one's, female POV, because before, with the Sense and Sensibility in Sasquatch, they had left it for Cal. And we were like, oh, no, that's for me. But I only knew that because I'd spoken to Rick.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he would have done an equally awesome job, but that would have been a little weird, him narrating from narrating Jane, butchered Jane Austen.
It would have been interesting, but when I saw that coming up on like Amazon, or just when I'm stalking you guys to see what new Shingle books you have coming up, I saw that one, I was like, oh my God, because I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, huge. And that's one of my favorite of all time of her stories. Okay. So to really disrespect it as we did was an honor.
It's like when I see you, I'm going to spit in your face, you bastard.
It was awesome. And it also reminded me of your Bill the Vampire series with the Sasquatches. The, oh my God, what are they called? Just the Bigfoot?
Yeah, pretty much just the feet or whatever.
The feet. That's what it is, the feet. It reminded me of the feet.
Oh yeah, that's why that one was easy to step into, because essentially I was just plucking a character from like a character I've already done, and it was just like, yeah, let me throw this into Jane Austen.
Yeah, it worked for me. It was fun.
Glad to hear that. So, what would you say? And you absolutely do not have to say Shingles. What would you say is the favorite book you've recorded? Tell us a little bit about and why was it your favorite?
Oh, okay. I'll do Shingles version, and then I'll do the romance version. Because my 95% of my books are romance, and they're from rom-coms or all different kinds of things. And I got to say, their Vampire Queen series by Jolie Sue Burkhart is my favorite series I've ever done. Sorry, guys. But it's because of and it's like a 7-book series or 6 books and then a bunch of little novellas tied together. And it's such an expansive world that dives into a bunch of different mythologies throughout the whole journey. It's a reverse harem. So you've got, the female character who turns out to be this badass vampire. And she ends up finding her blood, capital B, which are basically her lovers and her vampire army. And they're from all over the world, and there was a lot of different accents and cool character building, really cool fights and tension and drama and thrills. It was fun. I was fun just as a reader. But to be able to narrate it was really fun. It was really cool. Shingles has...
Yeah, let me just,
what a selection to choose from.
Let me just offer this, is that I think we both look forward to and dread the day somebody comes up to us and actually says Shingles is my all-time favorite series ever, because it's, on the one hand that's cool, but on the other hand it's kind of like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. I don't dread that. I'm just ready to say, yeah, I know, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? Because it kind of reminds me of my dad, because he's got this kind of sense of humor, in a sense, of just not afraid to just, fuck it, it was funny, Not trying to be offensive to hurt people, but just almost like gallows humor, which I feel in a lot of way your books are for Shingles. And there's commentary in it that I can tell, you know, if you really look for it. Like, don't be a pedophile or a meth addict.
There you go. You got the
Advice.
message.
Good sound advice.
Yeah. No, they're fun. So, although I have a ton of questions for you guys about the books, but okay, so let's see. I've done, out of your huge selection, the first one was Ghost from Hooker Alley, which is my introduction hazing phase of the Shingles group.
God, what an appetizer to this.
It was fun, actually. I'd probably say, because I'm trying to think back, because I really did love I Know What You Dicked last summer. A lot. God, this is embarrassing. No, okay, so...
This is not your fault.
Thank you. So with the Ghost of Hooker Alley, one, I had no idea what the hell it was going to happen and where it was going, and it went all over the place. And this poor little 10-year-old and her 6-year-old brother, which was my favorite thing, I think his name was Tommy, who was just changing. I laughed hard out loud so much in the booth that it took a lot longer to record than normal. And I also was like, what the fuck?
There you go.
You know, and I'd already pre-read it, you know, because I read everything beforehand. But when you're in the booth and you're in the mode, and I'm like, hey, I'm this 10 little girl, and she's so naive, and everything's like, no, I need to find a gun. And oh, okay, hi, Mr. Oh my God, let's go to Hello Titty. It's amazing.
Well, that's why it's like such a good book to start off the series. It does. There's no punches pulled whatsoever,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, if you can get past that, well, you belong and you deserve to read this series.
Yeah.
And if not, it's just kind of like, it's best we part ways here.
Yeah, and some people have, as I've seen on the Audible reviews.
I've seen that too.
You know what? But that's okay. I don't know. Out of all the stories, and okay, so I have to apologize. I have not read every single one of the Shingles books when I get the scripts because I don't have a lot of time. So I apologize. I've not read any of them but mine. I've not read Cal's stories, like Monkey Penis or whatever. But I'm excited. I still have the scripts, so when I get free time, they're on my list. I did really enjoy the Sober Slayers because I'm just a huge gamer geek, and so that was fun. And it's been a while since I played Dungeons and Dragons, so it was kind of fun to play DM, or I guess HM, to your story. But I love like bad horror movies, like bad, and I really liked Steve's story. I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is almost like, it reminded me of like the Wayans brothers. You know how they have those movies that like the parodies of like Scream or I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it kind of reminded me of that,
Right.
which is fun without like the stupid gag jokes. A little bit more on the serious. We're trying to be a novel here. Giggle Time was really fun though. Giggle Time Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. That was Shingles for me is often a place where, what the hell am I going to do with this insane idea? Shingles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, well, and that took me again to another horror, because I don't do horror as far as narration. So the cool thing about Shingles that I enjoy is, one, I do not know what I'm going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, right? Sorry, Forrest Gump, but you never know what you're going to get. And that's exciting because, okay, I do this weird little middle school thing. I don't even know where to put it genre-wise with Ghost of Hooker Alley. Then you got a lit RPG with the Sober Slayers. This fucking gross book called Just Gnome or whatever.
Just say no.
Yeah, Bob, I'm sorry, man. That was the hardest one for me to get through.
I love that one.
Hey, I'm not...
I was gonna say, Shingles is like a box of chocolates where you either get a caramel or bite into it and there's a used condom.
Oh, that's true. I was gonna say coconut, but okay.
Like a box of rabbit turds that replace the chocolates.
Yeah, I was thinking turds. I mean, chocolate to poop is a pretty small jump.
That's
You
true.
really worked hard for that used condom, Rick.
Yeah, but you know, it fell in line with the shock value of you really don't know what's going to be said next. You know, so you know, then like with Giggle Time Mountain again was, you know, like that 80s horror movie, which I'm a huge fan of. I had a lot of fun with that, and I really loved the characters. That's probably up there as well. I don't know. I like them all. Sorry, Just Say Gnome's at the bottom of that list, but only because okay, it's gross. But that's okay.
It is that.
But that's okay. It's just the visualizations it brings to me. It made me a little uncomfortable. And I was bummed about the ending. It was a Shingles ending, but I was bummed. But I don't want to give it away.
I don't know. I think there's a sort of cosmic justice that Bob is both at the top and the bottom of that list.
Yeah, that's kind of, you've bookend, so congrats.
Yay!
Yay.
Bob swings big. You can never say he does not take big narrative swings, by God.
Nice. I'm drawing a blank on the other one. Oh, that time of the month. That was clever. That was gross too. That was hard to get through.
It certainly was.
So, sometimes, you know, and not just for this, but especially in the romance stuff, especially when the vampires and there's a lot of blood and like, oh, they drink a lot of blood, and sometimes like you have to like prepare yourself, because sometimes I gag, because, you know, you get into, I have to visualize so I can act it out and hopefully paint the picture, and they're not always pretty. So yeah, so sometimes it takes some moment to regroup, but then there are some times where I'll be doing a line and I'm in the booth and just recording it, and then I'll stop and go, holy, and I'll just like curse or scream or like, or like, or laugh out loud. It's funny. Sometimes I wish there was like a secondary camera watching for outtakes, but I don't have the time to kind of put something like that together. But that would be funny to see different narrators in their flubs and bloopers.
I don't know. I kind of feel.
Definitely click on that.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
I kind of feel bad for you now. Now you're sitting there splitting that, like, you know, yeah, as I'm recording the story, I have to visualize it too.
Well, that's why Just Say No was a little bit difficult for me. You know what I'm saying? But being someone who is obsessed with fairies and the whole, like, if you guys ever do anything of the Seelie and the Unseelie a la Jim Butcher, Dresden Files, oh my God, call me. But so I love the idea of how you addressed the red caps with the garden gnome. It was clever, but gross.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
Yes, you do, you bastard. I'm kidding.
You got to understand, Bob, like, you know, writes like a Shingles like every other day. So.
Oh, wow. No, so Dusty is this little garden gnome with the red hat, and it's conical, so it's pointy. And he's fucking ladies before he does other stuff to them that's not nice. And, yeah, I don't want to give the story away, man. It's a good stuff with a lot of twists, and it's funny.
I mean...
Yeah, spend a credit, you freeloaders.
I think you might have read something into it that wasn't there, but I mean that works. That's fine.
Yeah, when I think of Robert Bevan, I think of subtext.
I just didn't think of that as like a red cap origin story, but I mean it can work.
Well, think about it. I don't know about origin story. I was just thinking of an interesting twist on it, because with red caps, the reason why their caps are red is because it's from the blood of their victims. And they're normally always very wet and drenchy.
Wait, are you talking about my book or gnomes in general?
I'm talking about both.
Okay.
We went off the rails somewhere. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Bob's taking notes.
This is gold.
Yeah.
Okay, first, let us group right together, guys. Let's do this. I don't know, man.
Well, I'll tell you what, you said you had some questions for us. Did you want to go ahead and knock those out since we're on the Shingles series before we moved on?
I do. Thank you. What the fuck goes through your mind? Like when you guys had decided, hey, let's do this series or these little novellas of these crazy stories. Like you said, ones that you don't know where to put them and where to put them. it feels almost like your guys, now that we're like 20 or 30 in, having a contest at who can be the most shocking or whatever. Do you feel that kind of a way? Like, how did it begin, and where have you guys seen it grown from then until now? With your process, with your, everything.
We were having this chat just among us, and I think it was Drew who was just pondering aloud. I wonder if the Goosebumps...
it's like the model,
the model, yes, the Goosebumps model could work a 20,000-word short story, like, put out every month. And I said, and it just gave me an idea. We could just parody Goosebumps.
Sure, I can see that.
Yeah, and we need to have a different kind of skin affliction name. So, Shingles.
more adult, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't even occur to me. I just thought it would be a fun name.
But I mean, I think Bob truly led the way, because I know he was writing Ghost of Hooker Alley, and I was kind of writing Gary's Children concurrently. And despite the fact that Gary's Children is a story about a guy who just spends a lot of time jerking off into a cursed sex toy, I actually held back a little bit on it. And then when I saw Ghost of Hooker Alley, it was kind of like, it wasn't so much a contest of, okay, let me outgross it, but it was more like, okay, so we're pretty much just saying, go with it. There's we're not putting any brakes on this shit.
Yeah. No restrictions. Let your freak flag fly.
Yeah, Bevan definitely led the charge, and I think that certainly influenced the amount of creative license in the general tone.
That's cool. Did you feel like in writing these versus the books that you're doing that are outside the Shingles box, I don't know how you mainstream books, I don't know how you would define them, but do you feel like you end up going to a different place? Is it more like a hobby fun, like, ooh, now I get to play here, where the others, like, oh my gosh, I gotta... Not that you don't love what you do, but sometimes it can be a day job, or how is the shift within yourself as a writer, or is it just,
No, you hit the nail on the head. It's it's not like my Caverns and Creatures series isn't any less what it is. But Shingles is just I like to think of it as a way to let off some steam with a different sort of comedy creative energy.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's kind of like it's a nice break, because I don't want to say it and make it sound like like it's like, oh, I don't have to care about story or so, but not because I always do. But it's kind of like with my novels, there's a lot of planning and stuff that goes into it, and with Shingles, it's just kind of like, okay, I have an idea. It could be fun. Fuck it, let's run with it and see and see where it goes. And yeah, it's given me a chance to play with different voices and stuff. It's funny. I was talking to one person. I think they were telling me they're like I don't really like the tone of your Shingles books. And then they started reading my Toma Bill stuff, and they're like, it's completely different. I'm like, well, yeah, I try to mix it up,
Oh yeah, they should definitely be different. And I get what you're saying about the different, I guess, kind of stakes to it. I do a lot of series and a lot of larger sprawling books, so I have to constantly be aware of continuity and pacing and etc. And that's sort of the challenge and joy of a Shingles book for me, is one, I write them all self-contained. I'm not trying to do any running stuff, so get your characters in and go. And then the pacing is almost just gone, because it's almost 20,000 words. Which for me feels like nothing. So it's just all right, get established and then go. And then you're just kind of running. It's just a sprint of a story. So you don't have to control the flow as carefully and everything. And so it's a little more frantic and fun in that way. It's madcap.
Yeah, and there's a fun aspect of it. The story I did a couple months back, Jizz World, I was racking my brain for an ending. That's what was keeping me from writing it. And then it just hit me. I'm like, dude, you're talking about
ejaculation.
Well, no, but it was like think of the stupidity in this story. Why do you need to wrap it up in a neat little bow? Why can't you just wrap it up in a completely stupid bow?
Yeah, it feels like, to me, I always get excited when a new one. I'm like, oh my God, I hope we do another volume. Oh my God, I can't wait. And then it's almost, for me, it's like Christmas, a warped one, but an exciting one, where I said, what books am I going to get to read? It's super fun for me, but I can feel it almost like it's a really cool writing exercise to keep your chops sharpened, your levels of comedy, almost like improv sharpened. As gross and weird and funny as they are, right? And like, holy crap, anti-PC. I think it's very obvious there's a lot of love and care and purpose within them, and not just throwaway stuff that just kind of happened to go into an anthology.
No, absolutely not. Some of my Shingles books are my favorite works. I mean, yeah, just I love my Caverns and Creatures series, obviously, but just some I think there's a lot of gems that I'm really proud of in these stories.
Me, I kind of find them inspiring because, I mean, you were asking if we try to outgross each other, and like I don't think so, but it's when I read something like like Put Your Hand on My Ass, or if I read like about the Tonys in Drew's Aliens Wrecked My Kegger book. Shit like that is like god damn, like first of all, it's like it reminds me that I'm working with like a group of really talented writers here, but also kind of like it's kind of like, okay, it kind of like makes me want to do better.
Nice. And what's interesting, you said the Tonys, and and I had mentioned earlier Hello Titty. I have noticed in the ones that I have actually read that like Hello Titty is in all of your books, Bob, from Shingles. There's a reference, but he also, I think, Rick, you had it in the Slobber Slayers, potentially. My brain is kind of going a little bit blurry, but I'm seeing like reference, Camp Meth. Oh, I loved that book. I forgot about that one.
Welcome to Camp
Meth.
Yeah.
Welcome to Camp Crystal Meth.
Yes, that was crazy. That was fun. And I feel like there's references that you guys pull. Like in I Know What You Dicked Last Summer, there's three or four Tonys in there. We're like, was Tony there? Oh, Tony, and Tony, and Tony. This Tony? No, the other Tony. And do you guys, are you doing that?
Yeah.
It feels like you are.
I mean, there are things, I mean, because we're doing this together, like and we've discussed it. I've said, guys, here's a new thing I'm introducing to the Shingles world. It's fair game if anybody wants to use it. Boner Bob's all-purpose lube.
Yeah, because you did Judd's Tits and Wings, which was great because I needed a setting for a couple scenes in Jizz World, so I was like, yeah, let's rock that up. I
think that's nice. I think it helps tie them together, and it's a little wink and a nod. At least it was for me. It was like, oh yeah, okay, it's something. And now I'm going all blank because all the stories are now blending all together. But there was one. I was a little girl. Oh, I think it was Just Say Gnome, where it seemed like there was a reference to Camp Crystal Meth, almost like very obscurely, when she was talking about the meth labs and they blew up and it's being in the forest, or even if it wasn't meant there, it reminded me of that other book, which was kind of like, oh, that's fun, even if it wasn't necessarily meant to be.
Yeah, that was unintentional.
You're welcome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, like every now and then, like throwing in like a little Easter egg to it says to something that happened in one of the other books. It kind of like almost kind of it gives that mind, even though they're vastly different stories, it gives that minor feel of shared world.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and speaking of the Sober Slayers, when Katie goes into that rickety old shop that has just a bunch of junk and stuff, where she finds the
pop stuff.
Thank you, pop stuff. Finds the player guide for the Dungeons and Dragons, or H and Harpies and whatever. Oh my God, I just recorded these like a few weeks ago. I'm still living in the brain of the other book I had. Sorry, but anyway, so the pops was talking about this doll and Sloppy and Floozy or something. Mm-hmm. And was that from? I can't remember the one that had the ventriloquist.
Put your hand up my ass.
Yeah.
That 100%.
Nice. Okay. Because I thought about that, and what was funny is I had to stop recording because my brain was like thinking about that, and I realized I wasn't paying attention to what I was saying, so it sucked. So I had to stop and go back and delete that and go again. I'm like, no, I got to focus. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of fun. I mean, I got to get caught up. I'm actually a few behind, but I enjoy reading the other, like when the guys put out a Shingles thing, because it's it's just kind of cool to see what direction they're going with.
How do you guys choose which to put in the anthology for the audiobook? Because I think, and I could be wrong, that there's a lot that are omitted that don't make it into the audiobooks.
No, you're wrong.
I'm wrong?
Yeah, they all go in.
Oh, they do? Okay. So it's just when. Okay, so then how do you curate which ones go for which volume?
In order.
It's purely chronologically. Yeah, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're volume 1, and then it's 7 through 12 and so forth.
Yeah, we're simple guys here.
Okay.
Yeah, we are putting way less thought in than you're giving us credit for.
All right.
Oh.
So how so you guys are still writing Shingles stuff, is right? How did you pitch it to Tantor, or did they find you?
Somebody take this one. I'm curious about this myself.
Because I usually do a lot of romance for Tantor. I mean, I know they do all kinds of stuff. They have a massive library of different genres, but yeah, I'm very interested.
So I've been working with Tantor for several years now. Wonderful work. They've connected me with wonderful narrators every time. Just very, very happy with them.
Yeah.
So we're to the point where at the beginning of the year, I'll generally just shoot off an email to my contact that I've been working with and let them know these are the books I'm planning to write this year. If they don't already have a contract on any of them, it's like, if you're interested, by all means. If not, I'll walk it on down the road. So that's just every year we do that. So I shot off my yearly email to them, and then kind of below I added, also, we're doing this project as a collaborative effort with some of the other authors you work with, because I believe by then Rick and John Hartness had already begun work with Tantor on other projects. So just, letting them know, like, the multiple authors you're already working with. And if you're interested, we'll happily, give you some more details. You wrote back, it's like, absolutely, we're definitely, we'd love to make it. It's like, oh, okay. And so I wrote back, but I made sure I attached a link to the first book, which was The Ghost of Hooker Alley.
Yeah.
And I did it in a way that made sure the image propagated so they could see the cover, and just really, it's like, hey, okay, awesome. Well, this is the first book in the series, and, the rest just scroll from there. So, read through. If you've got any questions or anything, let us know. Just really trying to make sure they had read what they were getting.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want to be like, oh, crap, I didn't mean, oh, okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah. You want everybody walking into this kind of business arrangement with open eyes. Like, everybody knows what they're getting into, right? Right? Yeah,
well, it was funny on the flip side. So I keep this massive spreadsheet of all of your books, all the books that I do, that or for each series or whatever, and has all the characters, who they are, and just to keep track, especially if there are weird pronunciations or vocal things that I need to keep track of. And then I always submit that to the proofer, for their ease, especially for hard words and stuff. So there's, especially like for a fantasy or for a lit RPG like you did, Rick, because, Atraxia or, these interesting names that they might not know or can't look it up. And I'm always like, hey, it's explicit. Let your proofer know in case they would like to bow out and take a different book, just to give a heads up as well. But I think they're all pros. They always some of the stuff that I've done with the romance stuff is extremely graphic sexually. So I think they're just used to it, and they're just pros. And they're like, no, it's good. I can handle it. Boom. And they do, like rock stars.
I should send you. I should send you Necromancer's Wife. That's,
okay.
That's not a Rick Gualtieri book. That is a. Oh God, I can't remember. That's a Caravance book. For a second, I couldn't remember my pen name.
Yeah, you forgot your own.
Yeah. Let's chat. I had another question about the Shingle stuff, but now I've forgotten. But I appreciate the behind the scenes knowledge with everything. It's cool.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. Oh, yeah. So I was gonna swing back to us interviewing you a little bit. I was scrolling through your website. I love that you have a little poster at the bottom that just straight up details your home studio. It's this basically, it looks like the gear and everything.
Yeah. Studio One, PreSonus, Studio 68, my microphone. Is that what you mean?
That was going to be my question. What is all that? Because I don't have the expertise to understand what I'm reading.
So, sure, that's fair. So I have a professional home studio booth. When I first started, long millions of years ago, like 7. I was in my closet and eventually got to level up. And so it's important for those who want to hire, especially publishers. So they understand the kind of equipment I have. And they always do kind of a test if they're interested in you. They want to hear a raw sample from your booth and whatever, so they can get an idea of what the sound quality is like. So Studio One is my DAW digital audio workspace, which is what I record, the program I record. Another one like Pro Tools is the same thing, if you've heard of Pro Tools. Mm-hmm. The PreSonus Studio 68C is my audio interface. That's what my microphone plugs into. I don't have a USB mic. I have one that has a XLR cables. XLR, like the kind that in the stage when you're in a concert, those black cables.
AKA a real microphone.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the AKG C214 microphone with shock mount, that's just the name of the microphone. I don't know what all the acronyms stand for, but it's a badass microphone. And the shock mount, it helps with the plosives, any breaking up anything that might hit the microphone. It's a windscreen as well for the breath. So it's just letting them know, hey, I'm legit. And punch and roll is a technique of how we record. There's a open record, which is basically if I were to just not stop if I made a mistake, I just read, Mary had a little lamb, her fleece was white as bark. Mary had a little lamb, her fleece is... And you just keep going until you get it right, and you don't stop and go back and delete that section or cut out your air or whatever. You just keep rolling, even if you cough or you... I belch a lot in the studio because of the diaphragmatic breathing, but or if I take a drink, you just keep recording in the editor. If it's not you, will then have to chop it up, even if you have multiple takes. Some studios record that way. Then there's the punch and roll, which is, it's like live editing. So if I'm going to say, I'll read from my bio. Growing up in New England, Cassandra Myles began entertaining early on in her childhood. And as I cough, so then I would stop. I would find the breath, which would probably be growing up in New England. I could punch in right there, so I delete everything after that and then start again. So I'm kind of editing as I go. So that's what punch and roll is. That's clean punch audio that a lot of places want. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. It's always neat to learn more about this industry because it's such a hot, on fire one. People love audio as technology's allowed more access to it. But you just get to see so little of the work that goes into creating these things on the narrative side.
Yeah.
You said you started off in a closet.
Yeah.
Can you? Because I think Cal said the same thing, right? So you didn't start off with the fancy mic and the black cables.
That's not true. I always had the fancy mic and the black cable.
Oh.
I used to be a singer and performer, sang in Vegas, and I've done, a lot of concerties type stuff. So I had great equipment and also knew, and I did my research too, and I knew that, I need to have really strong sound. Unfortunately, at the time, I lived in a much smaller place, so I didn't have the room. Like my booth, which is a Scott L. Peterson's VO booth, it's amazing, is like 4 feet by 6 feet by 86 inches tall. So it's huge. And so the place I was living, I would never fit. So I tricked out my little closet with Orlex foam from Guitar Center and my clothes and like moving blankets. And it wasn't ideal, but you can get the job done. And honestly, if you get it just right, you can make it totally work and no one would ever know, So I think some of my earlier books, I always feel bad because I always I want to give the best I can to whomever is listening and for the author and the publisher. And sometimes, the sound is a little bit tinny and it sounds like you might be in a tunnel. And I'm like, man, that sucks. I'm so sorry. I wish I could redo those books just so you could have that clarity. But as you get, better and you learn your craft more, you save up the money because this is expensive, then you can upgrade and level up. And I've been very blessed and grateful.
And I gotta think it's awesome to have, especially right now, because I know a lot of narrators are kind of stuck at home. Almost everybody's stuck at home. But if you're stuck at home and you don't have a booth, you're kind of dead in the water.
Yes and no, right? So there's a lot of people now who are like jumping, and not just narrators or people who are interested in getting into it, but also people who are interested in voiceover, right? And you can do it, and they have equipment that you can, like shotgun mics. Like mine's not a shotgun mic. It's a little bit more, not omnidirectional, but it has a wider, I don't know all the technical terms for it, but wider range, so I can move around, so I don't have to keep my head in one spot like you would with a shotgun mic. But it also picks up like every little thing. Like if my chair squeaks, I'm like, I have to stop and punch it in. But people can do it. The thing that I think people aren't aware of is, like I said before, you can't just buy a mic, plug it into your computer, and boom, you're good to go. I mean, you can, but most likely it's going to be shitty, unfortunately. So if you really, really, really want to do it...
You just described this entire podcast.
There's a difference between podcasting and actually trying to put a book together, so they're not one-to-one.
I have feelings, Cassandra.
Bob! I got nothing but love for you, man. You know this. No. You know what I mean, because... you want to give the best quality, but it's so much more. So you do this research, and there's two websites. If anyone's really interested in getting into audiobooks, I tell them to go up to Step Up to the Mic. Oh, how does it end? Hold on, let me. Step Up to the Mic, MIC, .net. So it's STEPUPTOTHEMIC.net. And that was created by an incredible narrator, Aaron Dord. It's encyclopedic information to help people who are interested in getting in. What all of it means, the setup, the test that Sean Pratt, who's a coach, an amazing narrator, explains. And it's like so you want to be a narrator. And basically say, okay, go into your closet and read for 2 hours straight. If you mess up, stop, go back, and keep reading. If you can do that and not want to, pull your hair out, you might be able to be a narrator. And then the other one is, I think, the Narrator's Roadmap that Karen Cummins has put together is two incredible resources. So you can do it, and they talk about ways to trick out your closet or smaller space to actually make it work. You just have to put in the research and the money, because it's expensive to start up, to do it right.
So switching gears to, technique. Because I know, I record a 2 hour at the movies, and and if I don't have something to drink, I'm I'm dying. How do you keep going for several hours and stuff? Is it just training your voice, or what's a typical recording day?
That's a great question. And let me just sidebar for a quick second. You mean you do something at the movies like Mystery Science 3000 kind of a thing?
Yes.
I need a link. That's amazing.
I was going to say maybe you need to be on one, because
not only can you have the link, we have guests on.
Yeah,
I would love to. Oh, that was something my mom and I used to do all the time, just on our own. Yeah, I'm totally in. I would love that. Okay, back to your question. I guess I'm a little bit ADHD. It really depends. The biggest, I think, most important thing to do when you're working is listen to your body, listen to your voice, right? My goal is to try to record 2 hours of finished audio, which is about an 8-hour day, potentially, or 6 hour, depends on the book. And I take breaks, especially for my body, because sitting down for so long, you can get cramped, and you need to get up, and you need to stretch and move around. And then to take some vocal breaks, because you can wear out your voice. And when you start to hear your voice get tired or it hurts, just stop. You're just done. You're not doing anybody a service, them listening, or especially you health-wise. So I just pay attention to my body. I think the longest I've recorded without taking a break, as far as getting out of the booth and stretching or just watching something on Netflix for a half hour is probably 90 minutes. And then I have to take a break just for my sanity.
So, have you done any voices that that really do hurt?
Yeah, and it's important too because like I have a menagerie of voices I have in my vault that I have go to. I mean, I've done a lot of books that have like 100 voices, so you have to figure out how to modulate or change them enough. But sometimes you have to be careful because if you have a series but you don't realize that Dr. Franklin, who's kind of, they say gravelly, and I hate when writers say the low, deep, gravelly voice for a female narrator because I can't hit that. So I do my best, but I just can't hit it. If I try to go too raspy and in here, I can't do that for a super long time. So I need to be really thoughtful of the kind of voices I choose because especially you're like, oh, this character only has one line. What the heck? I'll go for it. And then book 3, you're like, Dr. Franklin's back and he's almost in the whole book. Crap. So yeah. I learned that a long time ago and have adjusted. So I don't lose my voice.
So if I really want to be a dick, I can write my next Shingle story, Susie versus the Rock Giant.
You totally could, and I would fucking nail it, but here's what I do. I would do a voice like this that I could handle, and that's as deep as I can go. I'm a mezzo-soprano, man. I can only go so low.
They had a voice like they gargled on broken glass.
Yeah, literally, literarily awesome. Great visual, my imagination soars. Give that to a female narrator who is not an alto or even whatever is lower than that. Good luck trying to get it. You're just going to have to let that go and let your imagination, work along with the narrator because she can only, I love it when they say, oh, he sounds just like Morgan Freeman. And I'm like, Or James Earl Jones. I'm like, it ain't happening, man. I wish I could, but it's just not. So it's funny.
And I still get to read that part of the narration and be like, yeah, he sounds like James Earl Jones. So, let's all just pretend.
You just fake it until you make it, and you just do the best you can. Even when that happens, and it happens all the time, and especially in the romance books, right? All of the male characters that are the love interest, it's very sexy to have this bad boy, gravelly voice like, hey, aren't I sexy? Or that's about as low as I can. Hey, yeah, I can't do it. So, but what's funny is when there's like, okay, he said, but dropped his voice 5 octaves lower, and like it's not possible. It's not even a thing, but they do it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're already at that like bass, and you're like,
the whales.
I'm fantasizing about fucking the Kool-Aid Man.
whatever floats your boat, man. It's funny. It's fun. We us narrators giggle about it on our own, and we talk about it not in an irreverent way, just as like, yeah, I did my best. Yeah, me too. It's just funny. It's just
have you ever had any authors give you shit about it? Because I understand that. Like like when Chris records my Bill books, I don't expect him to sound like a woman because he's not physically capable of.
Right.
But do you ever have any authors like give you shit? It's like no, you gotta sound like a guy who wrestles bears for a living.
In my early days when I worked a lot more with indie authors, and I love indie authors, and I have no problem working with people on ACX. I love it. It's where I got my start, right? But the thing that's been difficult that my world and your world, they're similar, but they're not one-to-one, so there's differences. And also we have to do a lot of educating for the author, especially those who have not, are new to it, which is fine, happy to build that connection and that partnership and, okay, let's talk about this. But what they don't realize is, like, after the first 15 minutes of the book that we record as kind of like a second audition, so to speak. Okay, I auditioned, you liked my audition. Now I'm going to give you a taste of the first 15 minutes. And that's the point where they can go, never mind. It's not what I thought, or vice versa. And that's where the moment where direction can happen, where the author can say, oh, here's what I'm thinking about. I always ask for, if I can get it, a character list with quirks and ages and vocal preferences, she says with quotes. have a discussion about it and say, hey, listen, what's the tone? What are you thinking about? Because once I start and once I'm approved to record, you have no say. I'm the director. And I know how difficult that is to let go because these are your babies. You've spent a long time with them. And here's this, who the hell is this chick coming in and thinks she can not sound like Morgan Freeman? I wrote Morgan Freeman. So I've had to have conversations where authors tried to micromanage me, and I just, as kindly as I can, say, listen, it's my baby too. It's my name on this now too. So I care just as much as you, but...
And then there's probably the opposite, where I think you were sending me stuff about like sensibility of Sasquatch, and I was just like, yeah, whatever you think works.
right. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, sweet. And that's what, and honestly, to be quite frank, it's important to have it in writing. To give you a little inside tip. For me, anyway, I ask those questions. I'm not afraid to ask, and I'm happy to have those open conversations because I understand how hard it is to let go or to, to relinquish the freedom and understand it's got to be horrifying to listen back in some ways. Like, man, I hope they didn't fuck it up. And say, okay, listen, here's the situation. Here's how I work. Here's how the audiobook industry work and what it means when it says, you're the rights holder and I'm the producer, blah, 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 blah. I would promise you I'll take care of your baby as best I can, but it's going to be not 100% for how you hear it, but I hope I can give it everything and more. Leave me the fuck alone. Is the,
well, I think
context.
I think a lot of indie authors forget that whole concept that, like, okay, you're hiring a professional to do something, so you have to kind of trust in that professional. Like when my cover artist gets back to me and says, hey, Rick, all those colors you gave me will look absolutely fucking stupid on a cover, which I think she does quite often. Well, something I have to choose to trust that.
Yeah.
She's a digital artist. I'm somebody who can barely turn on Photoshop.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to put your head. And let go. It's the letting go process. Because I've had authors say, yeah, but I know these characters better than you ever will. And I said, you're right. However, my artistic interpretation to breathe life into your characters is going to come from me. I'll take your notes. So Rick, if you said to me, Molly is a Reese Witherspoon-like character, great. I have a stepping off point, but I am not going to mimic Reese Witherspoon. You know what I mean? I'll take her essence or, bits of it just to kind of infuse into it. But it has to live within what your character, how they live within the story and with the other characters. I mean, there's a lot goes on when we prep and I don't just sit there and go, okay, let's just go. I mean, I really put a lot of thought into everything, and as do my colleagues. So I'm always happy to explain the behind the scenes on our end, especially to authors who just, haven't experienced it before. But I have had to break contracts with only two, unfortunately, that just would not.
I think it's kind of like you have to understand that. And this happens all the time because Chris's delivery is different than I hear it in my head. But it's just because it's different than I envision it does not mean it's wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
I had a question come up once on an FAQ about what the appropriate pronunciation for a character name was because they didn't agree with the way the audio person had done it. And I was like, honestly, it's not the way it is in my head, but it doesn't matter because I'm not the narrator, and that's what's canon now. Because he's the person who understands what's going to sound right over long terms and etc. Yeah, you have to trust a professional. Explaining to newer authors, because there is definitely that flair of I can do it better, and they're a little bit begrudging to hand it off to a narrator.
Which I can respect and understand. I mean, I get that reaction.
I try and tell them you want the best person possible working on your book. You would want the best editor possible. You want the best narrator possible. And if you look within your heart, that's probably not you.
No, I would agree with most of that, but I will disagree with, not in your particular circumstance, but the pronunciation of a character's name, though. For Critical Failures 2, there's a character named Millard, and John Sleep, he pronounced it as Millard.
That's annoying.
Yeah, well, I said, can you change that? And he was cool with it. I mean, that's...
From my perspective, Bob, for this, I am 100% want to be dead on for pronunciations, period. For made-up names or actual names that exist, or words that actually exist in our vernacular in the dictionaries. So for me, I think it's important to check in, like I did with you, Rick, for the Sober Slayers. How do you want these to be said? If you don't care, then cool. Remember, you said that. We have it in writing, going back to my previous comment, because I've had to do that too, actually. I've had to remind an author, no. Remember when you said, oh, let me pull up that email. Here's where you agreed to that, and this is where I can't change it now because we've already established that. So I've had those situations, which that's why I try to get it all up front as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send the pronunciation guide, but if I have a chance, sometimes I'll just record it so it's like, okay, this is how it's pronounced, because sometimes you see you see it spelled phonetically, it's a little different.
Yeah, you've done that for me, which is I've appreciated.
It's always great when we get the chance to like provide those to folks. It's not quite the same going through Tantor. Like with ACX, you do get that direct interaction. I've had a few narrators who've reached out and like asked me the pronunciation questions and like gotten clarification on accents, and I love that, and I'm always so happy to do it. That is the one, I guess, perhaps drawback to a bigger production like Tantor is you don't necessarily get that direct interaction. But then again, knowing how problematic some authors can be, I'm not sure that's actually a drawback for you folks.
I was kind of the dick there. I actually did I reach out to you, or did you reach out to me, Cassandra, with regard to the Ghost of Hooker Alley?
I reached out to you, and I even sent you the first chapter.
Yeah, because you were like,
because of her voice.
I don't think I'm supposed to do this, but yeah. I was like, but I want to hear your sassy black woman voice.
Yeah, LaShanta was awesome.
No, I was going to say, yeah, with my Bent books, there's a whole lot of Gaelic in it, and they've never asked me for a pronunciation guide, which I got to be honest, I am so grateful for, because I write the words, but it doesn't mean I know how to pronounce them.
Okay, so just an aside, do us a favor, especially not just for Gaelic words, but just in writing. Read your stuff out loud, because I tell you, sometimes I'll get stuck on one fucking sentence for 20 minutes because I just cannot say it out loud to save my life. He clasped my wrist as he grabbed for the door, or something like all these. It can be crazy. But anyway, working with a publisher, I always ask it, because most of the time we're not supposed to reach out to the authors because we don't know, we don't want to interfere whatever the relationship is. Many authors don't want to be bothered. So it's a no-no. So we always ask the publisher, hey, is there any pronunciation guide that you can provide me, or may I reach out to the author? And sometimes they're like, no, we'll ask, and they'll just be the middle person, and that's great. Or sometimes, like, I did a series, and they just couldn't get in touch with the author. I think they were in another country or something, and they just do your best and stay consistent. I was like, okay. So, so it really depends. I had already had a relationship with Rick prior, so that helped as far as, having chats. And I think I had asked you, Rick, if it would be okay if I contacted Bob about Ghost of Hooker Alley, because I didn't want to, I didn't know you, and I didn't know how you felt about that, because it's tricky. So we're very cautious about that, but we love getting that information.
You said, this guy who wrote Ghost of Hooker Alley, he seems like kind of an important guy. I don't want to
fuck anything up.
Yeah, I think it was more like, I'm going to write to him and he's going to eat my skin, isn't he? I mean, yeah, every author is going to be different, but I mean, I know myself. Like, I love getting questions, because something. The more questions you get, the more questions you can answer, the less chance of listening to that book and being like, ooh, that's wrong.
Yeah, you're never gonna it never bothers me that someone wants to do a better job on the work of mine that they're producing. That would be an insane thing, to my understanding. Like, it's just, why would that be bothersome?
But on the flip side, I mean, I mentioned that mispronunciation of a character name, but on the whole, you, Cassandra and Cal, it's not always like I had it in my head
Right.
when I hear the recordings, but most of the time it's better, and that goes the same for John Sleep with the voice he does for my Caverns and Creatures books, and it goes the same for for John Luther Davis, who does our covers. I'll just throw him kind of an idea, because I'm not a visual person, but he grasps it, and he produces something better than I could have ever imagined.
I gotta say, ignoring the fact that it cracks me up also, but I just love the fact that we put out this series Shingles, and you and Cal just bring this enormous weight of professionalism to it.
We try.
Yeah, that's so much fun. This shouldn't be this well produced.
It does feel like a real fuck you to all the people just pouring their hearts and souls into personal works.
No, man, this shit is legit. This is important. It's good stuff. I'm thrilled to death that you enjoy our work, because I know we enjoy it. Question for you. So, speaking of, I, a couple weeks ago, submitted Shingles 4, all, my stories to Tantor, and now I'm just waiting for the pickups, which, for those who don't know, are just any of the verbal typos that I might have missed while recording. And so I go in, I'll get the sheet, and I'll re-record them, and the editor will put it all together, and boom. Do you guys get approval on the book, or it's like once you approve the narrators, you're just waiting for it to come out and get hey, here's the early files after it's been done and locked and approved? Like, where are you in the approval process for the completion of the book?
Even further back than that.
Yeah.
We don't get early files. We get them the day it comes out.
Yeah. With Tantor, it's basically like, okay, do you like the cover? Yeah. Do you like the narrator? Yeah. Here's your check.
Yeah,
Go
nothing.
away.
Yeah, as it should be. We don't know shit about audio.
And,
Right.
and I gotta say, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I love working with Chris, but it just in general, I hate proofing audio. Hate it. So the fact that Tantor takes that out of my hands makes me really love them.
Yeah.
It took a little while to get comfortable with that, but now that I've built that trust with them, I do. I love the handoff.
Nice. Yeah, they're great. They're great. I love working with them. Do you listen to all of your audiobooks once they are completed in totality? And if so, are you nervous? Are you excited? Do you ever get pissed? Do you, I'm sure on some ends, I've had authors where I will never work for again. I'm never going to name names, but do you have any situations like, oh, that's not at all what I thought it was going to be? That sucks. All right, well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, anything I do through ACX, I proof, and I'm happy to admit that it's taken me several years to actually get to a point where I'm actually doing it decently. And yeah, I do have one or two books where I've looked and been like, that was probably the wrong choice. I mean, I think it happens. I'm not an audio professional. I'm just doing as best I can. That said, the Tantor stuff, I'll be perfectly honest, I actually don't like audiobooks. I like just reading on my Kindle. So, other than snippets and stuff, usually I'm not listening to the whole.
Okay.
So mine is a slightly interesting, I guess, answer. I like audiobooks, but I can't listen to fiction audiobooks. They give me a headache, and it's the strangest thing. Just trying to keep everything without the printed word just gives me a migraine after a very short while. Nonfiction I can do, and I do listen to frequently, but I can listen to my own books without the problem because I know all the stories obviously very, very well. It's not, that sense of mental hecticness. And I do listen to I think at least key scenes in every time I have a new audiobook out. If time permits, I'll often do the whole thing. But if not, I'll definitely go check out, the major emotional breaks and big scenes or the stuff I just really want to hear through another artistic lens, because it is cool. It's the sense of almost like I didn't write it, because you're getting it filtered through another person's art.
Right. Do you ever, so that makes sense. Listen, for me, I hate listening to myself, honestly, actually, or watching myself if I were to ever do, TV or something. So I don't, with the exception of when I'm actually working or if I'm listening to make sure a demo is right or I have to submit something, I'll really scrutinize it. But, I do all the best that I can. I hope it came out in the end, but I don't go back and, okay, let me hear how once the editor's done with, the Sober Slayer, I don't go back and listen to it. I just hope for the best, which can be a little bit scary. And then especially we're told don't read your reviews. It'll just break you down. And because people are trolly McTrollersons, and some are just lovely, but it can really mess with your head. So do you guys have a similar kind of a thing, especially if you're just gonna, don't have the time, or like you said, you're a Luddite with a computer or whatever, that you're read the reviews oh man, I was really hoping they were gonna like it, but since I listened to it, now I'm afraid to listen to it. Or is there any apprehension at all?
I read the reviews, and it's probably the wrong way to come at it, but oh man, review is terrible. That person's stupid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I'm having a low day, I don't read reviews, because reviews can, just on a bad day. Most days I have a really thick skin, so it's I want to see what people say. And honestly, I mean, here's my thing: is the only reviews that bother me are the ones where it's stuff that I can control. Like, for example, okay, hey, I found a bunch of typos in this book, and I'm hopefully that I don't get those reviews. But everything else is kind of like an opinion, I've read reviews where it's oh, this is the greatest character ever. Oh, the characterization sucks,
That's interpretation.
Exactly. And I don't, those don't bother me.
Yeah. One of the big things that I think really helps is making intentional creative decisions, like knowing what tones you're choosing, what, kind of risks you're taking, etc. And then when you know that going in, if you see that in a review, it doesn't really bump you, because you understood from the outset that was going to be something that might rub people the wrong way, and that was something you were willing to risk in your story. So,
God, Drew, you're so much more articulate than me. This is exactly what I wanted to say, but it didn't have the words.
I mean, so reading Shingles is always, those reviews are never really bothersome, because it's always listen, a lot of people are not going to like these book series, and we know that going into them. So, negative reviews on Shingles is just sort of, that's going to happen. That's par for the course. We made that creative decision going in.
Right. For me, I'm the same thing with I think it was Rick who had said about, if I'm on a low day, do not read reviews. But the only times I'll really read it is when the book first comes out, because I want to get a sense. And I you learn how to kind of ignore figure out, oh no, that one's just kind of a troll, or just someone who's just barely put any effort. Or some had said, did a review and it had, they must have read a different book. So it was there are no vampires in this book. What are you talking about? But I'll pay attention if they're this happened early on for me. I got a lot of reviews of saying, the narrator was okay, but her male voices suck. And I got many of those. I'm I'll work on my male narrator, on my male voices. Cool. So if there's a trend that is problematic, that's something that I'll kind of latch onto, and hopefully that I can make myself better. But I don't go very deep, especially with the ones that have a lot of reviews in the triple digits. There's just no way.
And certain things you got to expect, like one of the early reviews I think was talking about sense and sensibility of Sasquatch, and I couldn't listen to this, and I'm well, because one, Jane Austen fans are going to hate this story, and two, normal Shingles listeners are probably going to hate Jane Austen prose.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a different. I was really impressed with you with that book, and I told you that because that was quite a feat in merging her style with yours. That was a good book. But yeah, not everybody's going to get it.
I'm not sure I would go good, but it was a fun book to write.
But you're right. Like we had talked about that, and it was like, well, I just don't think not everyone's going to get it, and that's okay.
All right. I was just going to say, yeah, I get a lot of stuff with, this was so racist, and I'm just boiling and thinking, did you think the racist people were the heroes in this book?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's kind of a theme I've noticed in many of these of a kind of all the adults seem to have a pedophilic tendency, and
that's my view. I mean, it's not across the board because I'm not the only one that writes these, but yeah, and my version of Shingles, all the adults are just horrible people.
But one could argue that if you're a Stephen King fan, every adult in every Stephen King book, which have sold millions and millions, are mostly awful people.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is if you can go in with the headspace of understanding when, okay, they're parodies in a way, or they're a social commentary, actually, in many, with a really dark twist, so it's a little bit more digestible, you can't take it on the nose because you're not really paying attention then.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think we do get plenty of people who do take it on the nose, where it's like, where it's like, okay, you're essentially. Like, I was reading one review about Bill, and it was like, oh, you know, Bill and his friends, they keep like fat shaming and stuff, and this is horrible, and this author is horrible for doing it, and I was like, you're kind of missing the point that he's described as a not really good looking guy, so him doing this is 100%, you know, 100% the guy in the basement talking about, oh, I would never date that supermodel, her knees are too sharp.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just the nature of, like, you know, of books. Like, you know, the readers don't know what's going through our head. We don't know what's going through their head. You know, some people are going to interpret it like we do, and some people are not, you know? Oh, well.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Stephen King and his epic It, there's a freaking child orgy scene. For crying out loud.
Shockingly, the movie chose to leave that one out. Go figure.
Thank God. And it's one of my favorite books, you know? So... the thing, you know, was one of the things I'll never do, speaking of like the racism stuff, or something that glorifies pedophilia or glorifies racism or bigotry, or to where they're the hero or they're making that seem like that's an amazing thing and that's something you should strive for. But Shingles doesn't do that. In fact, I feel it's made fun of so much, and the brutality that happens to those people in your stories.
Thank you.
Yeah, is like the poetic justice of it. So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you can guarantee if we're gonna write a story called like Jim Bob the Friendly Nazi, you know, where he's the hero of the story, there's some subtext going on there, you know. Yeah.
See, your books are smart.
Can't have comeuppance without a proper villain to hate.
Sure.
It's true. Or villains.
Multiple antagonists. Well, Cassandra, I wanted to ask you, so who are some narrators that you particularly love the work of?
Oh, wow. Well, I do love Kirby. He's amazing. I think actually one of the first audiobooks I listened to was Gone with him and Julia Whalen, and I love them tremendously. Listen to anything. Now, I don't have a lot of time to listen, and I actually, for me with audiobooks, I love them to listen to, but I fall asleep, so... I have to be like hyper paying attention, and I can't multitask or I'll lose whatever it is I'm hearing. So I have to, you know, whether it has to, like, if I'm going to go for a walk or if I'm driving is like the perfect places to do it. But I like never leave my house, especially now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Kirby Hayborn. I love Julia Whalen. Oh my gosh. Andy Arndt is amazing. I do love Chris from Build of Empire series. He's amazing. Simon Vance is a genius. There's so many.
Excellent folks for all the listeners to go out and explore the works of. Oh,
and James Marston for the Dresden Files series. The Dresden Files is like my favorite series of all time. And it's very interesting, too. And I think James is incredible. But it's funny, in his earlier books, you can hear the chair moving, pages turning, or you can hear a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff while he's in the booth, and then it gets progressively cleaner, which is kind of a fun little behind-the-scenes if you've never thought about it.
I think that's kind of cool because if you read the Dresden books in order, you can kind of almost see like Jim Butcher, evolving his style too. So I actually think that's kind of cool if you can kind of hear the narrator doing the same thing.
Yeah, you very much get to see Jim Butcher grow on the page for those first few.
Yeah.
I would kill to do a Jim Butcher book. Oh my God. A friend of mine did his Spider-Man book that just came out. I can't remember the name of it. I was so jealous. I'm like, man, I wish I was a guy. Because there's not a lot of female, comic superheroes that people are writing about right now that are the most popular. Hopefully more will come out.
I have a female-led supervillain series.
Ooh, I love villains.
Oh, it's called Villain's Code.
I would love to chat.
I actually have a female narrator on it, too.
Oh, cool. Who is it?
Amy Landon.
Oh, she's amazing.
She did an outstanding job on the first one.
She's so good. Yes.
She...
And a good human being, too.
Oh, yeah. She's one who reached out and got clarification on some stuff, and she's just been a joy to work with.
Nice. She's a gem. You lucked out on that one. Good. She's good people.
Oh.
She's very, very talented.
Everyone Tantor has set us up with has just been so outstanding. You included, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's the joy of working with a great organization with a wonderful stable of talent is you have that trust, but that trust is earned with the people they set you up with.
Yeah, they're a hard-working bunch, but they've got stuff on just on lock. They've figured it out. They got a good formula they got going on working. And it's kind of exciting, too, because there's so many new talent. There's so many books coming out now. And I'm really grateful, especially in these crazy times, to have work. And it's kind of neat to be able to provide, because my job, I'm not saving the world or doing anything, heroic. But at the same time, what you and I are doing.
Let me interrupt you and say I disagree.
Yeah.
You're narrating Shingles. What the hell are you talking about?
No, I was going to say you're entertaining people. And that is really important right now. Say other people are saving lives. Don't get me wrong. That is the top thing. But, you're keeping people sane. So don't discount that.
But I appreciate that. But that's exactly what I was going to say, too. I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. We're on the same wavelength because I was going to include you guys as well and just how grateful that we have a vehicle of what we do. Because, a lot of times, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, that's just a fun hobby, right? I'm like, no, it's my job. Or they just don't get it, right? But we're the sanity keepers, the entertainment, the escape places for people to escape while they're freaking out about whether it's bills or their kids or just their daily life or, unfortunately, what's happening now out in the world. And it's an honor to be able to offer even just a small respite. So yeah, I'm in full agreement with you, Rick. And yay us.
You're welcome, world.
Yeah. Well, Cassandra, I could not think of a better segue into what are some of your works that you would like to plug and like to tell people to check out? Upcoming, long favorites. Got a lot of audio fans who listen to this podcast, so please give them some recs.
Thank you. All right, let me go to... So for me, I had mentioned it before. So I do a lot of romance. So if you guys are really into romance, I've got a lot of stuff you can check out. But I've got something like paranormal. Like I said, their Vampire Queen series by Jolie Sue Burkhart. It's narrated by myself and Tristan James, and it's like a 9-book series, and it's so good. It takes you all over the place. It's a crazy ride, strong female character for those who are looking for the strong empowerment, but also the men too. They're no slouches, and it's a cool story that takes you all over the place, all over the world, touching all kinds of mythologies. The first one is Queen Takes Night. It's my favorite that I've done, series-wise. Again, sorry, guys. But I love the Shingles. I really do. Checks in the mail, right, guys?
I appreciate that, but you're wrong.
It's like, but you guys are nice too.
Yeah, you're right. But oh, shut up. I'm trying to think. 'Cause I have the Irresistible series, which is it's a much older series I did by Stella Reese, which is fun and amazing if you like kind of bad boy relationship stories. I actually don't have too much going on right now as far as new stuff. I mean, I did this Honky Tonk Cowboy series. It's funny, too. I tend to get a lot of Southern stuff lately, which is fun. And I grew up in Tennessee for a minute, which is funny because I remember asking you, Bob, about your stories, and one of them felt like I should do a Southern accent with it. And you're like, okay.
Most of them you should.
Yeah, well, I followed your lead. On the last one, I did not, on Just Say No. But
Oh, right.
But I did on the, I keep drawing a blank. What was it called again? I'm so sorry.
Welcome to Camp Crystal Meth.
No, there was that one, but the one in this most recent one that we did, Volume 4. Wow. Anyway, I'm sorry. I have a complete blank. All my books are mushing together. Anyway, so that's, if you like country music, it's a clean romance, too. There's no graphic anything. It's just a fun cowboy romance series. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's about it for the moment. I'm hoping what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get more into the gamer stuff. So one of the things I'm actively trying to do is find out if I can get more of the RPG or geekier stuff or fantasy or sci-fi. Because I'd like to build my portfolio open to what my passions are, which are those.
Well, I know we have a lot of writers who listen to this as well. So, folks, if you are interested, be sure to check her out on CassandraMyles.com. Is there a contact info on here, or is there an email address you'd like us to give? Oh, I see the email right there.
There is.
Yep. For anyone listening, we'll go ahead and throw a link in the description of this episode, of course. But if you're listening in your car and you just want to type along, it's Cassandramyles.com, and everything you need is right on there. It's a very nicely organized website.
Thank you.
We have to dig around a few of these for guests sometimes, and information is not always so neatly presented.
Yeah, I hate the whole game, the rage quit. When if I have to click too much or if I have to search for it, I'm just gonna rage quit and just forget it. So I try to avoid that. I've got my Facebook and the Twitter links all the way up the top with the email, and hopefully it's pretty in your face. Easy peasy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on this side quest with us, and thank you for being a part of the Shingles world. I can definitely say the narrated system would not be as good without you.
Oh, thank you. It's honestly, it's been a highlight for me. I really, truly, and I mean this sincerely, I love them. I'm always excited to get the next email. I'm like, oh, when's the next one coming out? So.
Yeah, you bring class to a series that shouldn't be anywhere near a school.
Well, I try my best. Thank you.
That should be a tagline.
Right? All right, folks, so we will be back next week with a regular episode of Authors and Dragons, and then again with Side Quest. Until then, bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.